You know something feels off when support arrives with a strange aftertaste of pressure. They clap for you out loud, then somehow you leave feeling smaller, guilty, or exposed. That is not support, and your body usually notices it before your mind does. Real support feels steady. Fake support feels invasive, curious, competitive, or quietly controlling. And if you've been doubting yourself, this video will clear that fog quickly. By the end, you'll know exactly how to spot it and stop feeding it. Because fake support is one of the most dangerous forms of manipulation. It gets close enough to your life to gather access, trust, and emotional leverage. And it hides behind kindness, advice, concern, encouragement, and that polished voice of loyalty. I've seen this pattern enough to know the confusion it creates is deliberate. You keep thinking, maybe I'm too sensitive, maybe they mean well, maybe I'm ungrateful. Meanwhile, they keep getting closer to your decisions than they ever earned. So let's name it clearly, because clear language breaks manipulative fog faster than comfort. Someone pretending to support you wants the appearance of loyalty without the reality of care. They want access to your thoughts, your plans, your wounds, and your reactions. They want influence without accountability, closeness without honesty, and emotional control without looking controlling. And the first sign shows up when your good news somehow becomes their stage. You tell them something beautiful, and within seconds the spotlight quietly moves off you. They compare, interrupt, advise, compete, or start telling a bigger story about themselves. You say you got promoted, and suddenly they explain how politics probably made it happen. You say you're healing, and they smirk about how long that usually lasts. You say you're happy, and they respond like a fact checker, not a friend. Real support does not need to compete with your moment just to survive it. Healthy people can celebrate you without turning your win into their emotional courtroom. But fake supporters feel threatened when you're rising, because your confidence reduces their influence. So they don't always attack the win, they contaminate the feeling around it. That's why you leave the conversation proud for 2 minutes, then weirdly ashamed. The second sign is disguised concern that always leaves you doubting your instincts. They say they're just worried, just being honest, just trying to protect you. But notice how their concern always points you away from your own judgment. It sounds like support, but it functions like erosion inside you, slow, quiet erosion. They question your choices, your boundaries, your relationships, your timing, your confidence, your next move. Not to help you think clearly, but to keep you uncertain and easier to steer. A toxic parent does this when you finally make an adult decision without permission. They don't ask what feels right for you. They ask if you've thought carefully enough. That sentence sounds harmless, but the hidden message is, trust me more than yourself. A fake friend does it too when you start pulling away from chaos. Suddenly they're concerned you're becoming cold, selfish, secretive, changed, or too good now. Concern can be care, but concern can also be control wearing softer clothes. Here's the third sign, and this one catches people because it feels almost supportive. They ask personal questions with warmth, patience, and perfect timing, then weaponize the information later. They want details about your stress, your money, your relationship, your insecurities, your plans. And because they sound interested, you mistake access for safety. Big mistake. Fake support often begins with listening, because listening is the easiest way to map you. They learn what hurts you, what tempts you, what embarrasses you, what activates you. Then later during conflict, those same details mysteriously return with sharp edges. Maybe they bring up your fear of abandonment right after you set a boundary. Maybe your coworker asks about your workload, then repeats your words to your boss. Maybe your ex asks if you're okay, then uses your vulnerability to reopen control. Support protects what you share. Manipulation stores it for later use against you. So start noticing who gets kinder when you're open and who gets more powerful. The fourth sign is subtle, but once you see it, you cannot unsee it. They support you publicly, then punish you privately for acting on your own. This is one of the clearest giveaways, because real support stays consistent when nobody's watching. Fake supporters love the image of being on your side more than your freedom. So they'll compliment you in front of others, then guilt trip you once the room empties. A boss says they admire your boundaries, then keeps texting after hours anyway. When you don't answer, they act hurt, disappointed, or strangely cold the next morning. That's not support colliding with inconvenience. That's entitlement reacting to reduced access. A family member says they're proud of your growth, then mocks your new standards. They call you dramatic, distant, rude, sensitive, controlled, brainwashed, or hard to talk to. Why? Because your growth changed the terms of access, and they felt the lock. The fifth sign is that your no never stays small around them. With healthy people, a boundary may disappoint them, but it does not become theater. With fake supporters, one simple limit becomes a whole emotional production overnight. They sigh, withdraw, explain your tone, question your loyalty, or suddenly need space. Not because your boundary harmed them, but because it stopped working in their favor. This is where many people fold, because backlash feels like proof they did something wrong. But backlash often means the boundary is accurate. It touched the exact nerve. Anger can mean loss of control. Guilt trips can mean loss of access. Silent treatment can mean punishment disguised as distance, not peace, reflection, or maturity. And the more calmly you hold the line, the more clearly patterns expose themselves. So if they act wounded because you said no, read the reaction correctly. The boundary did not create the problem. It revealed the problem clearly. The sixth sign is the darkest one, because it happens after you pull back. When they feel you slipping beyond their influence, they suddenly become your biggest fan. They praise you, cheer you on, offer help, send kind messages, act transformed. But the timing tells the truth. Their support appears when your distance becomes real. This is not always repair. Sometimes it's re-entry. Sometimes it's bait again. Especially when the warmth disappears, the second you reopen access or lower your guard. A toxic ex may suddenly support your new job, your routine, your healing. Not because they've changed, but because your independence threatens the version of you they controlled. A jealous friend may finally compliment you after noticing you're no longer chasing their approval. The praise feels good, and that's exactly why it's dangerous. Hunger makes bait look sincere. Now here's what most people miss, and missing it keeps them stuck for years. Fake support is not always about hatred. Sometimes it's about possession, insecurity, or image. Some people need to feel needed more than they need to be kind. Some need insider status in your life so they can feel important. Some want the social credit of supporting you without sacrificing their control over you. And some simply cannot tolerate a version of you they cannot influence. That nuance matters, because not every difficult person is toxic, and not every silence manipulates. Sometimes people are messy, insecure, stressed, clumsy, or emotionally immature without being predatory. The question is not whether someone disappoints you once. The question is pattern and intent. Do they respect your no after the sting passes, or do they escalate for leverage? Do they protect what you share, or convert it into power during conflict? Do they calm down when clarified, or stay committed to misunderstanding you? Healthy people may not love every boundary, but they can handle one. Toxic people treat your limit like betrayal, because your limit blocks their usual route. And once you see that, your guilt starts losing its grip fast. Because guilt is often the tax you feel when you stop overfunctioning for manipulative people. So what do you actually do when you spot fake support in real time? First, stop over-explaining. Explanation is where fake supporters go fishing for openings. The more you explain, the more material they get to twist, question, and redistribute. You do not need a courtroom speech to justify a simple boundary. Try this instead. That doesn't work for me. Then leave it there. Or say, I'm not discussing this, and let the silence do its job. That pause is a weapon, especially if you usually rush to soften your no. Don't rescue the silence. Manipulative people often depend on your discomfort more than their argument. Second, watch what happens after your limit. The reaction is the diagnosis. Anyone can sound supportive before they hear a word they don't like. What matters is how they behave when access narrows, answers shorten, and control fades. Third, separate warmth from safety. Some of the least safe people feel very easy. They mirror your feelings, remember details, say the right things, and learn your language. That can mean empathy. It can also mean they're building a key. Fourth, reduce access before confrontation if the person is strategic, vindictive, or socially slippery. Some situations don't need a dramatic truth speech. They need clean distance and fewer details. Especially with toxic family, manipulative bosses, or anyone skilled at flipping your words. Strategy is not dishonesty. It is self-protection when honesty is likely to be exploited. Fifth, keep your phrases short enough that they cannot be pulled apart. My answer is the same. I already answered that. I'm available during work hours. Not this time. No, I'm not available for that. Those phrases protect your energy. Short language leaves less surface area for manipulation to grab and refrain. Sixth, believe the pattern faster. Waiting for perfect proof is how people stay trapped. You do not need one dramatic betrayal when you've already lived 100 tiny ones. If someone repeatedly leaves you confused, exposed, guilty, small, and watchful, pay attention. Confusion is not always lack of understanding. Sometimes confusion is the effect they create. Because if you're busy decoding them, you're not standing firmly inside yourself. And that is the deeper game. Fake support keeps you available and uncertain. It keeps you seeking reassurance from people who benefit when you don't trust yourself. It trains you to confuse being studied with being seen and being managed with care. But the moment you notice it, the spell starts breaking, quietly, then completely. You stop handing private parts of yourself to people who mishandle them. You stop performing gratitude for crumbs that cost you peace every single time. You stop mistaking access for love, attention for loyalty, and curiosity for care. And you finally understand why their support always felt a little expensive. Because it was never free. It was trying to buy influence inside your life. Real support does not invoice you later with guilt, confusion, or self-betrayal afterward. Real support does not need your weakness to feel close to you. Real support can survive your growth, your distance, your no, and your independence. If it cannot survive those things, it was attached to control, not connection. So the next time someone cheers for you, look at the cost afterward. Look at whether you feel stronger, clearer, calmer, safer, or just more observed. Look at whether your confidence expands around them or whether your guard quietly rises. Your nervous system notices fake support long before your politeness is ready to admit it. Trust that signal. It may be the first honest protection you've felt in years. And if this hit close, tell me which sign you've seen most often. If you want more language like this, stay here and protect your peace. The people who hate your boundaries were usually benefiting from your lack of them.